So there's been a lot of talk about what's happening on July 26th, but what's actually going to happen and how does the FRCP 26F conference actually work? Well, we're about to find out. Yo, what up guys? It's Derp here with another video about the Dark and Darker court case. This time we're doing a quick breakdown of the FRCP 26 conference, otherwise known as the Early Case Conference. As always, I'm not a lawyer. All of this information is based on my own research and conversations I've had with people who I would consider experts. What I'm going to cover is the FRCP 26F conference. What do we usually learn during this conference? When does this happen? Can it be pushed back? What happens next? And a quick TLDR of the timeline update. So before we get into the video, as always, I want to give a huge shout out to everybody who's been watching live, subscribing, leaving comments, joining the guild. A huge thank you to everybody shown here for all the supers, the membership, and all of your support. I can't do this without you guys. Yeah, let's get right into the video. So what is the FRCP 26 conference? So this is what I've been calling the early case conferences for some time now. And first and foremost, we need to kind of understand what the FRCP conference, otherwise known as Early Case Conference, is. So I'm not going to read the whole rules on camera. It would take way too long. But if you want to, you can pause here and read through it yourself. I have a link to the Cornell Law right here that goes over the rule in depth and what these conferences are. But yeah, so this is all according to Cornell Law, so you can kind of pause it and read through this here if you want to. But yeah, I'm going to kind of skip reading that just summarize it. To summarize the page above, both parties have to meet up and go over their plan for the case. This includes things like discovery, information on witnesses, what type of information they want to submit, how that information can be verified, and how various motions various motions they want to file or discuss or argue before discovery starts and gets into trial. It also is the first real opportunity that the parties have to discuss a settlement while having the judge in the room. So essentially, they will all be in the same room, whether that's through a video conference or in person. That's the defense, the plaintiff, and the judge. They're going to sit down and discuss all of the basic rules of the case, as well as ask to argue specific motions or hold pretrial hearings for specific things that relate to discovery. However, this doesn't mean everything can or will be heard that day, as this process can actually take a few days to several days. The court doesn't have time to mess around and will decide to push things back or do things early if necessary, as seen as in all of the motions that have been filed in the past 14 to 20 days, right? Everything from when Iron Mace responded to the summons that's been filed up until this point on the 26th is basically part of the pretrial conferences. It's all early motions that happen pre-trial, pre-discovery, and lead up to discovery. It's all stuff that's important to moving forward with discovery. So that's all technically part of it. So what's important to the release of Dark and Darker is the motions that are filed or discussed, right? So this is the most likely time for Iron Mace to argue the request for an injunction against Nexon. It's also the most likely time to argue the motion for the case to be dismissed. This doesn't mean the discussions will take place on the 26th, just that it's the first real opportunity for these things to be discussed with the judge in the room, and it's also the most likely chance for them to be decided upon unless the court feels that it needs more time to make a decision or there's some kind of extenuating circumstances or a court emergency. We do need to prepare for delays should the judge feel they need more time or one of the parties try to push forward new arguments during these conferences. Again, it's unlikely, but it is entirely possible that these individual motions get pushed a little farther back while discovery moves forward. In that case, the motion to stay discovery will probably be decided upon on or before the 26th. It's a little late to decide it before the 26th. I checked Pacer, nothing new was really there. What do we usually learn during the FRCP conference? The very best way to understand what we learn in the FRCP conference is to simply look at the rules as stated by Cornell Law. So feel free to pause again and read the rules below, or join my Patreon and download the script. You could read them there, or just follow that link that I gave out for free above. So to save time, I'm just going to summarize it in a moment. For those of you guys reading, I highlighted 2 important sections in bold paragraph markings. So if you want to stop and read that there, feel free. But I'm going to kind of just scroll through this really quickly, so you guys feel free to pause it here or not. So, in short, the above page outlines what can be talked about in the conference. Most of it has to do with the rules of discovery, as well as what information the parties plan on providing, when they plan on providing that information, and how that information will be verified. So this is everything from like witness testimony to documents to evidence to it. They start preparing all of that stuff. That's what's called discovery. So when they start going through and preparing all that stuff, they have to stipulate what, when, and how, and why it's important, right? And they do all that stuff starting now on the 26th. So most of, if not all of it, has to do with the rules of discovery, as well as the information the parties plan on providing when they plan all of that. However, there is one thing that is super important, and that is the clause in Section F that states that any other orders that the court should issue under Rule 26C or 16B and C need to be argued on that day, or on or around that day. They have about a 14-day window. This includes things that might impact discovery, such as injunctions, the stay of discovery, or the dismissal itself. Basically, anything that has to do with discovery or may impact discovery should be handled on before, or as soon as possible after July 26th. So, when does this conference happen? Can it be pushed back? What's the timing here? This is the big question. When exactly is all of this going to happen? The problem is that there's no explicitly stated date other than the deadline, which is the 26th. But there's still a window before and after when all of this stuff can be argued. Because of how the courts work and how the rules are stated above, both parties must be present on the 26th to hold the official conference. However, this doesn't mean everything has to be decided upon that day, just talked about. This would be literally impossible to decide everything that day, just because of how the courts work, and they only have so many hours in the day. This doesn't mean that they all have to be decided today. The 26th is just the date everything revolves around, which is why Nexon and Iron Mace have already been putting motions and arguments forward well before the 26th, as I stated before. This doesn't mean we'll have everything wrapped up and presented to us with a bow on by the end of the 26th. It just means that we should get a ton of information about the direction of the case on that day. However, it might come today or the day after. It might come tomorrow. We can't really tell exactly when this stuff is going to happen. Only around what day and what should be decided upon. Technically, the judge has up to 14 days to decide whether or not to delay some of these issues until what's called the final conference, and that's the day before the trial. This includes the dismissal, preliminary injunctions. A lot of this stuff can be moved pretty far back. Leaving those things until trial is extremely unlikely, considering the nature of this trial and how financially damaging that would be to everybody involved. It is still possible, and we won't really know what happened for certain until it's posted on Pacer. So, in short, we should have a ton of information by the end of 26, like local time for Seattle, or the day after, because usually reporting is done anywhere from same day to up to 48 hours afterwards. It depends on when it's all filed. But we can't be certain or expect anything until it actually shows up. All we really know is that the conference itself cannot be delayed unless there is some kind of government or court emergency, which is extremely rare. So on that day, all 3 parties will be showing up unless like the court catches on fire or the government shuts down. But what happens next? This section is really short because there's not much we can do except for wait and find out until the 26th, right? So as of shooting this video, that's tomorrow. So we wait, we bite our nails, and pray to whatever God governs the courts of the Western District of Washington. I'm looking at you, Flying Spaghetti Monster. Don't do me wrong. You got to help us out here. After that, there's 2 other important dates on the U.S. docket. August 9th, the initial disclosures deadline. See Section E in the linked Cornell article. I'm going to have that linked in the description below, as well as having it linked in this script. August 23rd is the joint status report deadline. I'm not going to really go into what that is. I'm going to save that for another video, but I do have a link to like a summary of what that is, and I'll have that link in the description as well. Now, for those of you who didn't want to sit through the video, what's the TLDR? To be brief, the 26th is a super important date for the trial. A lot of important things are going to be discussed then. The most important thing to note is that it's the first real opportunity for both parties to come to a settlement agreement. Other than that, they're going to discuss preliminary injunctions and dismissal. However, that doesn't mean that we will get the decision on these things, just that they're most likely, this is the most likely chance for those decisions, and that they're all going to be discussed in length on this day. So we won't necessarily get a decision on anything tomorrow. On the 26th, we likely will, but it's not certain, right? So the 26th is the most likely day for all of this stuff to go down, but it's not, promised. So as the judge is going to be there and going to make a lot of decisions there, that's just kind of how it's going to play out. But that's what the entire purpose of this meeting is. But things can always be pushed back if one party remains argumentative and the judge doesn't feel confident in her decision. So things can also be pushed back just in general by about 14 days before the judge either needs to make a decision or decide to push things back until the final conference, which is the day before the trial. While this is unlikely, things like that rarely get pushed back, especially to up until right before the trial. It can happen. What we need to be prepared for is a small delay, and if everything goes to shit, a delay until the final conference. But just please don't get crazy. Don't burn anything down. If we don't get any word back on the 26th, just keep a cool head. Remember that this is just kind of how courts work, and this is normal. If we do hear something great, it is highly likely that we start seeing exactly what's going to happen with the rest of this court case tomorrow on the 26th, but it's not 100% certain. So don't go crazy. I hope this clears a lot of stuff up. Here's a quick updated timeline for the situation with the U.S. case and the Korean case. So July 21st was the deadline for the motion to stay discovery until dismissal, and that's obviously passed. We don't really know the resolution of that. I'm assuming it's been pushed back until the early case conference. So we should probably know. That's one thing we most likely will know about by the day's end of the 26th, if not within the 48 hours following. July 26th is the early case conference, pretrial hearings, and the Rule 26 conference. August 9th is the initial disclosure deadline. August 23rd is the joint status report deadline. In Korea, the 21st was the report on the investigative court. We haven't really heard much about that. There's been a few articles that have come out that have discussed it. I'm going to go over those in another video. August 21st to September 21st is the rough estimate for the preliminary injunction hearing in Korea. Most likely, according to multiple sources now, it's probably going to happen sometime between the mid to the end of August. But yeah, that's about it. As always, you guys are all champions. I love you guys. This community is amazing. I want to thank you all for your support. Everybody joining the Discord, everybody who's giving supers, and everybody who's subscribing. You guys are incredible. I'm almost at 1,300 subs. My goal was to reach 1,000 by the end of basically 1,000 by the end of this month. I've blown that goal out of the water. I am blown away, and I'm going to do something crazy for hitting 1,000. So keep on the lookout for that. I hope you all are enjoying what I'm trying to do here with these more concise, streamlined content. I'm doing my best to shorten things down without cutting too much information. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. If you want to access more content, be sure to join the guild by following either the YouTube membership or the Patreon link below. You'll get your name in the intro scroll, and there's other ways that you can help out. I'm developing a game, and a lot of the money from this from my YouTube is actually going to go directly into developing that. It's also going into upgrading my stream too, as seen by the new mic, the better camera setup, the better lighting. There's other stuff on the way. I'm going to get another monitor because the TV is kind of not working out as great as I want to. But yeah, you guys are all amazing. Please hit that bell icon, like and subscribe. Love you all. Have an awesome rest of your day. Peace.